Welcome back to Bella Confidential. Now, what if one day your friend or your sister were to come to you and tell you, you know, I am being abused at home, physically, mentally, or psychologically? What would you do? I mean, what is the right thing to do? Well, today on the show, that is what we want to find answers for. And to help us with that, we have invited a lawyer, Dr. Arunan Selvaraj, who's the managing partner of Rusma Arunan and Association, here with us. So welcome on the show, Dato. I mean, domestic violence is still such a taboo topic, especially because it involves family, you know, it involves the family. And a lot of times, people want to deal with it internally. Like, you know, don't go and report the police, you know, we'll talk about this and we'll work it out and things like that. But does it actually does it work, you know, to settle something like this so serious internally?
Yes, it's still a taboo. I mean, you know, the word divorce maybe about 10, 20 years ago was a negative thing,
yes,
and people don't want to talk about it. But I think now people are accepting it.
Okay.
So it's quite common now. But domestic violence itself, because it involves violence, so I think it's going to take some time,
yes,
for people to actually be able to accept it. So creating awareness and making people feel that, you know, it's okay to discuss it, I think that'll make a lot of changes.
Okay, so let's say a woman is being abused at home and she's decided to come out to seek help. What's the proper procedure, or what is the first step that she should do to get help and get out of this abusive relationship?
Okay, I think counseling is very important.
Okay.
Okay, besides, I mean, counseling is for the person to actually know exactly what transpired and to be able to help the person. But the other thing you have to do is to get a protection order from the court.
Okay.
But in order to do that, you have to lodge a police report.
Okay.
And when you lodge a police report, the police will investigate the matter. So while they're investigating the matter, if the abuse is so bad, then what will happen is the court might give them an interim protection order to protect them from being abused.
Okay, so the first step is making a police report.
Yes, that's right.
Would you say?
Yes.
How about when or should they hire a lawyer to help with the case?
You don't have to have a lawyer to, you know, do that. You can actually you can do it on your own.
Okay.
You can hire a lawyer, or you can go to the welfare department.
You can do it on your own? In what sense? You can fight the case on
yes,
your own?
not fight the case so much. You just have to make a police report.
Okay.
The police is going to investigate the case. They will bring forward this your problem to the magistrate, and with the evidence which is produced, the magistrate will, on a balance of probability, look at the issue and then will issue a protective order, interim protection order for you.
Okay, all right. Now, as a lawyer, I'm sure you've seen a lot of these cases. We always look from the point of view of the victims, but you have seen from both sides of the story, so maybe you can share with us what is the regular occurrence in a domestic violence case from both sides of the story?
From the abuser's point of view, I find a lot of these abusers, they have the bullying mentality. Okay, this dominant role they play, the bullying mentality. But this sometimes stems from either they have a inferiority complex. They feel they are, you know, the wife or the spouse is better off than them, so they want to exert this dominance that they have. Or they have a superiority complex, and this could be from, you know, upbringing. They always feel they're the best. They are the best, and they can, you know, say whatever they want, and they can control everything. So there are, in rare cases, there are also cases where alcohol is involved. Yes. Intoxication, where they are under the influence of alcohol. But I think at most times what happens is these abusers are victims themselves. Some point of time, young, you know, at their young age. And these habits manifest at a later age. Yes. So it's difficult for them. I think they need help themselves.
Okay. In your opinion, you think there is a weakness in our own Domestic Violence Act? Does it benefit the abuser more, in a sense?
To be fair to the legislators in this country, I think they've done a reasonably good job of course, the law, there's always some loophole somewhere. But I think Malaysia is, in this region, Malaysia is one of the first countries to come up with the Domestic Violence Act. And I think a lot of amendments were done, initially in 1994. And then 2012, there's been a lot of changes because those days, domestic violence only consists on personal injury. Okay.
So only if you have an injury, then it can be considered domestic
violence. Now it's
violence.
also gone to psychological abuse and all that. So it covers quite a bit. So to be fair, I think the law is always there. And we can go on changing the law. But like I told you just now, the defensive mechanism, instead of doing that, I think we should also try to see how we can prevent people at a young age, people who've abused, and take them and counsel them and see whether that can be done.
Yes. Now, you were talking about the interim protection order just then. How does this work? And how do you get an interim protection order? When a victim gets this interim protection order, can he or she or they move out, or the perpetrator has to move out of the house, or do they still stay in the same house?
No.
Because I remember the victim who came on the show to talk to me, she had to stay in the same house with the perpetrator, even when she had the interim protection order, because she couldn't move out. It was not allowed. She wasn't allowed to move out.
No, it's not. It really depends on the circumstances of the case. And because sometimes the victims, they say they want to stay in the same house, but they don't want the person to harass him or her. So that's one of the reasons why because she says she doesn't want to go to Awam or any other organization. So maybe that's why that's what she chose to do, you see. But you can say you want to move out, or you can say you don't want the perpetrator to be in the same house with you, and the magistrate will make the order accordingly.
No necessary arrangement. How about children? Like when children are involved in the abuse?
Yeah, the same thing
Can
applies.
they get interim protection
Yes,
order
they can.
as well?
Yes, it applies to children, people who are incapacitated as well.
Okay.
Yeah, they can get the order.
All right. Now, as a lawyer, do you have the right to say, reject a job if you know that the abuser is guilty?
A job as in when a client approaches you?
Yes, when a client approaches you and you know that he is guilty of abusing his spouse, let's say. Do you have the right to just, I don't want to take up your job, just to, clear my conscience. I don't want to do that job. Yeah,
definitely, you can do that. But at the same time, to be fair to the abuser, you can, maybe this is the opportunity for you to educate him or her. And to tell the person that, maybe what you should do is, you should plead guilty. You need help. And when you plead guilty, I can mitigate this matter for you. Maybe you did it under certain circumstances, alcohol, or you abuse yourself. We can highlight all this to the court and maybe go for rehabilitation. So you can take it up. Yes, you can.
All right. So, but you ask them to plead guilty?
I would do that.
Okay.
Yes.
Out of fairness for both parties.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Now, in a domestic violence case, right? Does it cut across, all genders, all races, income levels?
Yes, it does.
Yeah?
Yeah. And I mean, the clients which I've seen, some of them are really quite well-to-do and, all kind of races. So it doesn't really matter, I think.
And young and old as well.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, Dato'. We're going to go for a quick break right now. But coming back, we're going to learn about domestic violence from the victims and the female's perspective. So don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Bella Confidential with me, Belinda Chi. We're talking about domestic violence today, and joining Dato' Arunan is Lee Wei San, Assistant Program Manager of Awam, as well as Emily O. Matthias, Head of Services at Awam. So welcome on the show, Wei San and Emily. Now, we were talking with Dato' earlier on about how victims, what do they have to do, or what are the procedures that they have to go through. Let's say if they're being abused, what do they have to do to get out of this abusive relationship? Do you have any advice there for the victims out there who are still being very silent?
I think it's a very scary situation to be in, and sometimes I think when you don't know what to do, you get stuck. So one of the things we would advise people to do is to give us a call. We have a hotline, the Telenita hotline. They can call us and seek assistance, because it's very scary to go to the police station even, sometimes you may not get the kind of support you want. If you've been physically assaulted, to go to the hospital, sometimes you need assistance. So that's where we can help. They can call us and we can tell them, okay, what are the options available to you? Because we provide free counseling and free legal information for women who've been abused. And that's really important, knowing what to do next. Yeah.
Okay, so let's say I make a call to the Awam Telenita, that I have the number here later. We will flash it out later as well. Would you send someone to come and help, or you just provide counsel through the phone?
So
Emily?
usually when a survivor comes to us, we will assist them. We'll give them all the information that is available in terms of their legal rights. And at the same time, we will also assist them by taking them to the police station if they need moral support. We don't make the police report for them, but we assist them to be there. Sometimes, most often, they are very scared, so they need someone to be with them. So once that report is done, we will also provide with free counseling.
Dato', how does an abusive relationship start? Because I mean, a lot of times, relationships, they start beautifully, people send flowers, they're very romantic, and how did the dynamics change all of a sudden in a relationship?
Well, in a classic domestic violence case, you'll find that the abuser, the first step is normally what he does is he either charms or seduces the victim. And after some time, the next thing is he isolates, the next step, he isolates the victim. And he doesn't want the victim to have friends, go visit relatives and things like that. And then the third step is where the intimidation starts. Psychologically, he intimidates the victim. And this doesn't mean physically. Sometimes you can just take a gun and put on the table, or just confine you in a room. So that's how it works. And then the final step is where he starts abusing the person. So, I mean, going through this whole thing, and before the final stage is how the person is like mentally disturbed, and that's how it works. And one way to overcome this is for the victim to start talking to people and shine a big torch on him, to expose him, to discuss with people. And the big bully, the abuser, they don't like this. They don't like issues like this to be discussed with others. So I think when you discuss with others, people can somehow try to come and help you.
Okay. Is that what you see often? Like, why is that what justifies why some women stay in an abusive relationship? Because it's this cycle where, like, after they get abused, then their partner will come and apologize and say, I'll never do it again. Is that why, Emily? Do you see? What do you see? What is the pattern with the victims that come to Awam?
Well, I think sometimes the survivors, they most of the time they have no choice but to go back to their spouse or in that environment, because they don't find that they have support outside of that situation. That's why it is very important that they actually seek help from friends, their relatives who is able to help them, and also on NGOs. Where we will be able to assist them.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's difficult, especially as Dato' has pointed out. Sometimes you are isolated. So if you find that you're isolated and you've lost contact with family members or friends, and you have no one else to turn to, I mean that's where NGOs can come in to support, because that support to take the first step, that's extremely important.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yes,
Sorry,
Dato'.
just to touch, it's also how the public perceives it. Sometimes it's the perception itself. It's like a social stigma.
Yes.
So when you are from a family of domestic violence, they don't want to discuss with others because the people look at it differently. So that's the other reason. And for example, if your neighbor they have issues of domestic violence, and they invite your son for a birthday party, you think twice. Not because your son is going to be abused, but you don't want him to be in that kind of atmosphere. You see, so people don't tell a lot of other people when they're abused because of this, the fear of the perception of the public.
Okay. So this is a case where the husband is very controlling and doesn't allow her family to come over to her house, and they've been married for 15 years. So what should she do? Or there's no mention of abuse or, you know, physical or sexual or any type of abuse, but it's just more of a control.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it's no harm in talking. I think that's one of the best methods to. You also, you know, you can assess the situation, you know, by talking to him to see what he really feels. And I feel maybe that's where you will find out whether, you know, how he looks at things. Maybe it could be some misunderstanding or his perceptions are totally different. But what is important, I think, is most abusers, they're always in denial.
Yes.
So you might have that, you know, when you confront them or you tell them, you know, you're controlling, they say, no, I'm not controlling. So it really depends. But I think it's good, it's healthy to have a discussion, to talk, and then from there, you know, what's the next step to take.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much to all our guests for being here with us
Thank
today and sharing with us what we should do. Any last words to anyone? Any last words to the people out there? What should they do if they are faced, you know, with a case of domestic violence? They're not directly involved, but they're an outsider looking in. What should they do?
Well, if you can, see how you can assist that person, because apathy is one of the ways in which violence goes unchecked. And so if there's something you can do, do it. But of course, you need to assess the situation. We're not saying jump into every situation, because you also have to think about whether you might make the situation worse or whether you might bring some harm upon yourself. So, but what we are saying is that, you know, you can speak up, call someone, see if you can do something to assist.
Okay. Emily?
Yeah, violence is never the answer to everything.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Dato'?
The most important thing, yes, I think is, I mean, for the victim, I think they should start talking to people. Not necessarily you have to go to an organization and talk to them, but even to family members or someone else. So, you know, someone is there to help you. Maybe they can go and relate this or check whether it's abuse.
Yeah. I mean, as a society, we have to truly stand up for those who have lost their voice, because, I mean, if we were put in that situation, we would want someone to help us as well.
Sorry, one last thing.
Yes, Dato'.
The Domestic Violence Act also protects people. Let's say you see someone in a situation like that, you can always complain, make a complaint or inform the respective bodies or the police. You're protected by, the Act protects you.
Oh, the observer as well.
Exactly. So you can't be sued for defamation or anything like that.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much to all our guests today for helping us understand more about how to deal with domestic violence cases. We're going to go for a quick break, but coming back, a little bit of entertainment news for you, so don't go anywhere.